Guess we're jumping right in. When I journal trades in the past, I used to use Excel, but now I use TradeZella for anything that I really want to like dive into. But most of the time, I use my like videos as like a journal in and of themselves. And if I ever have like a moment where I've taken a trade and it isn't exactly how I wanted it to go, I'll go back and I'll review it kind of that way. And what's nice about journaling using a recording is that if you're talking to yourself, you can go back and listen to your thoughts in real time. And, that's nice. How do you get to be leader in this group? Oh, I'm not the leader. That's still dodgy. I can kind of give you guys the rundown a little bit, even though it's not that important. But I became friends with Ryan, same way. Many of his friends have been acquired over the years online just by joining his Discord and hanging out with him for a bit. I joined a Minecraft server, and then I had an opportunity to cover some of the PM streams for these guys named Troy and Mark. And then after that, they went and started their own thing, and it left a void in this Discord. And I went to Ryan and I was like, listen, man, we're good friends. There's obviously a demand here for PM. If you'd like, I would be more than happy to take over for that. And since then, I've just gained more and more responsibility. Recently, obviously, I've been covering a lot of the streams here, and yeah, that's about it. So, do I have a girlfriend? I do. Yeah, we're coming up on 5 years. So I make 50K a month? No, not that much. Hopefully this year though. What's my hourly wage to cover streams? So I don't get paid like an hourly wage. The way that I'm compensated is by people joining PM stream, which I am completely controlling of, right? So I get to receive all the profits from that. Um, which firm am I with? I'm with Lucid and Apex. I think that those two, like, if you follow that path, that is the best like path for beginners just trying to get into prop firms and then scale from there. I think Lucid has very good payout rules. I think they have very beginner friendly rules. And I like the fact that it's a one time fee and there's no recurring monthly payment. So you can take as long as you want on these evals. And when you're a beginner, that's incredibly helpful. Now, the Lucid method, I'm not exactly sure what you're referencing, but what I've done is I've got these five fundeds with Lucid. And when I first got them, I was trading with a lot of size. Okay. Make sure you don't exceed the scaling cap, which is two minis up to $1,000 profit. But I was trading with like a mini at a time. And I hit a very nice trade for like 70 points on a mini over five accounts. And that's how I kind of started building my buffer. And now I've exceeded the buffer. And my goal is to try and get to 4K profit before requesting a payout so I can request the max of 10K. Okay. So for the activation fee, Apex has actually gotten much less expensive. It's now $65, and so you pay $20 right now with code Dodgy, and then you activate for 65 for lifetime, and that's a pretty good price. 85 bucks all in. That's industry standard now. How do I copy trade my loose? It's just through Trade of 8. Yeah, so the way that I switch my bias is through this very easy calculation. Okay, so whenever you're looking to form a bias, you're gonna take the draw on liquidity and the order flow at the time. Okay. And when you have drawn liquidity and order flow that align, that becomes your bias. And once that drawn liquidity has been taken and order flow switches to the opposite direction, that's when you flip your bias. Okay. And there's a couple ways that you can tell drawn liquidity and order flow. Drawn liquidity is easy, right? You just have your hierarchy of draws that you go through. And you can identify that through like session liquidity, equal highs and lows, data wicks, LR, etc. And then order flow, what you do for that is essentially you pick out a fair value gap that has been holding price that I would call significant. And if that fair value gap breaks, that's when you switch your order flow. Okay. And you can do that on both the higher time frame and the lower time frame. Most times you want higher time frame and lower time frame order flow to align, but sometimes they don't because we take external liquidity and things change, and that's a whole other conversation that we can get into. But if you want to dive deeper into this, go to the study channel, and there's a whole infographic where you can understand order flow and what I'm talking about to a better degree. Okay. How do you trade multiple accounts and rotate firms? Or just copy trade all of my accounts at once? So you can have the Tradeovate brokerage app open, like the desktop app, and you can have the web app open, and that's one way that you can flip easily between two different prop firms. Um, and another way is, I don't know, I just, most of the time you're not going to have back to back trades. And so I'll only take a single trade on one set of accounts and then switch to the other after I've taken a win or loss. What's the science justification behind FVGs? So essentially, there's a inefficiency that exists in the market because price expands too aggressively. And whenever we leave that inefficiency in the market, price tends to come back to it to balance it before heading in the direction that it needs to go to, right? Um, that's like the idea. Yeah, I know Glocky. It's crazy. It used to be like 140. How do I approach phase two of Apex SPA process? Are you talking about like moving to live, or are you just talking about like how you have to like build a buffer? Why do I still have the end dog on my chart? Oh, just because I have an indicator that marks it out for me. What are your thoughts going into this upcoming week? I think silver is going to rally to over $100 an ounce, and I think that the Nasdaq is going to be bullish. So that's kind of my thoughts. I'll see where the draws on liquidity line or line up obviously, but that's kind of my thoughts. Historically, is this week going to be lower volume? Yeah, probably. You can wait until the new year to come back. Explain time plus liquidity. So yeah, when he says that, he means price tends to run liquidity during specific times during the day, specifically during macro times. Okay, and liquidity is liquidity. Unless you need me to explain that too, but basically liquidity is just orders. Would I say 7 past accounts is good to start? Yes. I mean, here's the thing. Lucid's a very good option. So like whenever you have the money to buy Lucids, I would buy them. But if money's tight, then 7 accounts is still a good place to be. So I rotate firms per trade or per payout? Per trade. So what I'll do is I'll trade my accounts that are closest to a payout first, just so I'm always making progress towards that. And then once I take a winning or losing trade on those accounts, I will switch to a different set of accounts and I'll trade those. And that way I'm very risk managed and I spread my risk across a lot of accounts versus copy trading 25 accounts. That way, if something were to happen, whether it was a technical issue or a breakdown in my psychology or something like that, it's not going to affect everything. I like to keep my accounts segmented from one another. Order flow conflicts with draw. What scenario is more important? Just preserve capital there. Yeah. Yeah. So I have like a whole it's kind of like a pinned comment in my PM chat that goes over each of those like different scenarios with order flow. I just have to find it. Um, Wait, did Dodgy delete the study channel? Oh no. Oh no. Well, the study channel's gone. That sucks. Okay, let me see if I can find my pinned order flow comment. Oh, I never pinned it. Okay, well, it's somewhere in the PM chat. I don't know what happened to it. Um, in order for you to become profitable, what's my best tip? Get really good at being patient and have really good market awareness. And those two things together will lead to profitability because genuinely, a lot of psychological issues come down to a lack of patience. What does it mean to super level? It just means to wick above a higher low and not close through it. A failed soup is like when we wick above a higher low, but then price ends up running the lower high anyway. Do I ever trade for my significant other? No, I mean, my significant other doesn't have to pay any bills, if that's what you mean. I trade for them every day. Explain risk management. Okay. You're trying to make it so that your risk management essentially is managing the tail scenarios where you would blow your account. Okay, so if you imagine going into every trade like a bell curve, okay, like something like this, okay, and this is like the extreme on the right side of like super profitability, okay, like very profitable, and then on this side it's like completely unprofitable, like you lose like 15 trades in a row. You're managing your risk for this scenario here, okay. That's essentially the idea behind risk management is you're trying to manage your account sizing for these scenarios. You're trying to prevent these. Okay. And the majority of your trades will fall, within this part of the bell curve. Okay. Explain how when you have more screen time, you don't need to stick to a mech model and can be more discretionary. So essentially, when you have more screen time, you notice things that the market tends to do, and that allows you to be subjective if, like, for example, the mechanical model appears, but subjectively the trade doesn't make sense because either A, the draws on liquidity that we have on the chart aren't that great, or B, time doesn't really make sense, or C, there's something externally driving the market that, maybe you don't want to deal with or trade in, right? So, like, let's say we have macroeconomic data later in the week, or we have a government shutdown, or we have holidays or whatever, right? So there's a lot of things that you pick up over time that you just add into your like memory of things to avoid or scenarios you've been in, and that's what increases subjectivity. But if you see a setup, take it and fails. Well, that's the thing. You have to get out of that mindset. If it fails, it fails, right? It's based on statistics. If you're taking trades that are backed by years of statistics, then over time those statistics are going to lean into your favor, okay? But if you're taking trades that aren't backed by any data that you've collected, then you're essentially just gambling. Yes, Chris. Do you think? Yeah, I'm recording. Do you think NQ could hit 25, 780 relative equal highs? Yeah, I do. I mean, we're already or relative equal lows. Uh, maybe. Yeah, this seems like a good liquidity pool. I could see that. Maybe 30K in payouts from 17th of November to 17th of December. I want Dodger to interview me because I want to start social media, bro. Hit him up. I can show payouts. So you want me to have Dodgy interview you so that you can. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm gonna be honest, bro. He's probably not gonna do that. But hey, good attempt. Was there an IPG of the week? No. So why? What I'm gonna do for next week is combine this week's days and next week's days. Okay. Because there was only like 3 days this week. Do you know the logic why a lot of seven-figure traders run servers? Aside from multiple sources of income, would you say these traders could live off trading alone if they wanted to? Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I think the logic is they want to make more money, and why wouldn't you do something like that when it only adds a few hours more of your time to run, right? Like I'm going to be on the charts 4.5 hours a day regardless. Um, why not? Why not? Capitalize on an additional source of income. That would kind of be my reasoning as to why I do it. But then again, I'm not a seven-figure payout a year trader yet. Maybe in like 2 years that'll be what I do. Tips on growing your Instagram? I don't know, bro, because I don't really do social media like that. No, I just have a personal Instagram. I don't have like a business one or like a trading one. I just do whatever. Yep. But yeah, did everyone have a good holiday? Everyone get what they wanted? Not gonna lie, it was like a 10 out of 10 Christmas for me. Yeah, it has. Honestly, one thing that's really nice about the holidays is like it's the only socially acceptable time of the year to take time off. And like when you run a business, you're on 24/7. Like regardless of what's happening, whether it's your birthday, whatever, you're just on, right? And I know that like I'm not streaming every day or whatever, but I'm on answering questions to people. I'm managing other things. I'm dealing with like, administrative business stuff that like you guys don't really know about. And just being able to take a week or two has been really nice. But yeah, we did a lot of fun things. I've been to like six, no. So I had four parties with my girlfriend's side of the family, one party on my side of the family, a party at my house for my friends, and then I went to a party last night. So I've been to seven parties in the last week, I think. You got a silk tie from your mother. That's awesome. Tips for someone 2 months into trading. Have good standard advice at T because I've had a lot of help from people I know, but any tips or stages I might come across? Yeah, so you have to really get good at losing. There's this book, I think. It's called The Best Loser Wins, and it's a good, psychological read that goes deep into, how to overcome one of the biggest difficulties with most traders, and that's losing. Does anyone know if the discounts are valid on alpha futures? I don't know. How often do you find yourself putting your stop at break even only for it to stop me out? Oh, often. At least once a week. At least, no, more than that, like 3 times a week. It happens often. Yeah, it has been. Two of those parties were at my house too, Khalid, so it's been a lot. When you were making payouts instead of becoming a good trader, did you ever have any traders as friends on the same level as you? Yes. Yeah, I do. But they didn't influence my trading. They were just like I kind of just treat them as like almost like coworkers. But now they've obviously become really good friends. What I'll do is like every day after I'm done streaming, I'll hop in a call with them and we'll just talk about the day's trades, and that's nice. Yeah, drone. You just have to cut off your day ones. What's the book called? It's called The Best Loser Wins. Another good one is Atomic Habits, but I mean that's just like a self help book. I got some value out of it. And then my favorite book is The Psychology of Money. Psychology of Money is really really good. Drone, you kind of sound like this guy that used to be in this Discord. His name's Vert. Really similar. Really funny actually. How did you learn trading when you first started out? So I started out when I was 18, just learning options, and I was basically just gambling. I mean, I would like go online and like look at DD that other people had posted, and I would kind of like just like copy their trades blindly. And then I joined one group, and he wasn't that good. I think he ended up being a scammer. And then I was just learning how to do things on my own with options. I eventually got to the point where in school I was learning about accounting and finance and whatever, and I learned how to read financial statements, and that really propelled me to a different level because I ended up finding a company that I was not confident in their financials at all. And then with ChatGPT being an emerging technology, I was able to capitalize on that, and I opened a pretty big short position, like $12,000 against Chegg, which is a homework help company, and I ended up making 800% on that trade. So that was a really good learning opportunity there as far as getting into trading. And then after that, I pivoted to futures um, because I saw the potential that existed with prop firms, and overall futures seemed easier. I didn't really have to deal with the time component and paying for premiums. And that one trade took me 5 months to play out, so it was I wanted to pivot to something a little bit more short term, and so yeah, that's kind of been like my trading journey. And then obviously got into ICT and met Dodgy and all that. Who looks like Vert? Not who looks like Vert, but he just sounds a lot like Vert. Vert left. I don't know what he's doing now, but yeah. How long have I been trading? I've been trading for over 5 years. Did I go to college? Yeah, I have 2 degrees. I have a degree in management information systems and cybersecurity. When did I become profitable? Like 2023, like midway. So I started trading futures in March of 23, and I got my first payout in July of 23, and then I got my first five-figure payout in August of 23. And then I had a couple slow months in January of 24 and February 24, and then same thing. I had a slow month in February 25. So how do I backtest? TradeZella. Did I start? I did start with the 2022 mentorship. Yeah, for ICT. Should I get funded 6 months in, or just when I'm profitable on paper? I think that you should buy a Apex account just so you can feel like what it's like to have some skin in the game. And they're only $20 if you're 6 months in. But honestly, take it at your own pace. Do you recommend taking one-to-ones during the buffer phase? I recommend taking one-to-ones only if you have a good understanding of market conditions, because realistically, going for further targets and like going for liquidity is going to make you a lot more profitable in the long run than taking one-to-ones. Okay, but in some market conditions, one-to-ones are great. Okay, you just have to know which is which. Um, and usually, what'll tell you that is price, how price is reacting to liquidity, and what's happened in the previous overnight session. So was I working before the payouts? No. So what happened was I had that really nice Chegg trade, and I graduated, and I used that Chegg trade to give me an opportunity to essentially um, fund what I have going on now with futures. And so my parents took me back in after I graduated, which I'm very grateful for, and I lived with them for about 9 months or whatever, and then I moved out. But I wasn't working. I was just going fully into trading and fully into futures. I mean, I did DoorDash a little bit when I was, not getting payouts. But then once I started getting payouts, I just went full send. Is it worth going to college to play football even though I want to trade? Yeah, for sure. You should always have a backup plan. And if you're getting a scholarship, you should do it. I wouldn't go top step. How's January price action? For me, it's been 50-50 over the last 2 years, but honestly, I don't really see anything different. Just be careful. February is my worst month every year. I mean, the problem is one of the most important pieces for a good prop firm is their reliability, their availability for their platform. Because how many times are you going to put up with missing a trade because a platform went down? And that's my biggest problem with Top Step. I mean, they go down like once a week. So I just wouldn't want to deal with that. Is Alpha Futures good? Yes. How many red months out of the year do you typically? I go through like one red month a year. I don't know that February this year will be bad. I always go into every month with the same mindset. I never really approach any month like, oh, I'm gonna trade really bad this month. It's just I'm gonna do the best I can. I've noticed a pattern with February where I don't do as well, and then obviously August is difficult. Oh yeah, man, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm always going to advocate for a backup plan because that's what I did. And I think having a backup plan removes one piece of negative psychology that can impact your trading, because one thing that really affects a trader's psychology is this feeling of desperation that they get because they're struggling to make money or they're not finding consistency, and that desperation will eat at them and it'll cause them to become impatient, which, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the most difficult things to overcome as a trader, is to become patient. And so when you have a backup plan in place, that removes one of those like feelings of desperation potentially, right? It just depends on the person, obviously, but I think if you have a secondary source of income while you're learning trading, that's good, because then you're not like, oh, I have to get profitable so I can pay rent, right? And I think that, well, as much as, okay, there's no other plan, it's plan A, I have to do this or get it done, can help somebody with their mindset, I think it equally can impact a person negatively. And so you kind of have to figure out what kind of a trader you are. And if you're not the trader that falls into that secondary category of, oh yeah, this is going to motivate me, then I think having a backup plan is good. Yeah, patience. I mean, their UI is the biggest selling point, Project X. But if it's going down, then what's the point? Also, they're very expensive. It's $50 for an eval and then 150 activation fee. The industry standard now is $80 all in. So you're paying 2.5 times the price for the same product essentially, other than, oh, you get Project X. So what about instant funding? I wouldn't mess with that. I think you can pass an eval using news, and it's a lot cheaper to just do that. What are my hobbies outside of trading? I play video games. I hang out with my friends. I hang out with my girlfriend. I cook. Um, I'm hoping to get back into reading. Go to the gym. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, negatives are they can go down and it's expensive. And I think that there's better options. Lucid's better. Alpha Futures is better. Apex is better. So I would prioritize those before going into Top Step. If you're at a point where you're trying to scale to even more accounts, and that's the next logical place to go, then I guess you can do that. But there's just better options. Like Lucid is the best option. They have the same payout rules as Top Step, and they're cheaper. So, and it's a one-time subscription fee. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription, so you can take as much time as you want to pass the eval. Is Project X good on Lucid? They don't have it. Just use Tradeovate. I'm gonna wrap up here in about 2 minutes. So if you guys have any last minute questions, just let me know. In terms of managing multiple funded accounts, it's the best way to preserve them and have longevity. What I've done is I've segmented my accounts. So essentially, what I do is after a winning or losing trade on 5 accounts, I will switch to another group of accounts and I'll trade between 5 and 10 accounts at a time. And that's what I do. I've found that segmenting my accounts and keeping maybe my wins smaller but more risk averse has helped with my longevity. Like right now, I have over 30 grand sitting in prop firm accounts that I'm waiting to pay out for the new year. And that's just been done by segmenting um, my accounts. Do I have a personal live account yet? I do. It's for options. I've got about like 10K in there, I think. But yeah, if you're gonna start a live account, I think with futures like 5K, like 2 to 5K is a good place to be at. It just depends. I have a 9 to 5 job as a safety net, but I want to take the big step and become a full time trader. To see 50K funded accounts. How much would I recommend it to take? Okay, so what I do, or what I tell people is find consistency for 6 months and have enough money set aside for 6 months of expenses. Okay. And that way, no matter what happens, you have your emergency fund behind you if something were to happen where you're no longer able to trade. And with 6 months of payouts and consistency, then that's proven to you like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing now. Okay, so that's cool. Because Top Step sucks, and they don't have Trade of Eight. They just have Project X. Why is February my worst month? I don't know. That's what's happened to me in the past. I've just had red months in February. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll have a red month in February. It's just what's been the case for me. From what time do you prefer to trade IFG model in PM sessions? 1:30 to 4. All right, last question. Who is my mentor second ICT? Dodgy. Would I say Dodgy's IFG model has evolved from 2023? It has, 100%. Already, I guess that's all. I'll catch y'all on Monday for, I guess, PM stream. And I'll catch y'all if you guys are in the AM, I'll just be chatting in there. Maybe I'll throw out an alert or something. Alrighty, you guys go enjoy your Sunday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Peace out, everyone.